Hello friends, welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to discuss Alfred Lord Tennyson, his biography and his writing style, and his poems are included in your course. I'll discuss them as well, and to understand them you understand his writing style and how it is reflected in his poetry, in his poems. So without wasting time, we'll begin with a brief introduction of Lord Tennyson. Alfred Tennyson, or Alfred Lord Tennyson, he was born on 6 August 1809 and died on 6 October 1892. So he was a British poet, right, during the reign of Queen Victoria. So he was a Victorian writer, right, and he was also the poet laureate of Ireland and Great Britain, right. And that poet laureate is a title given to some major writers and poets. And the early poetry of Tennyson was medieval in style, medievalism, middle ages of that, and style and subject matter employed the powerful imagery, right, and to be a major influence on the pre-Raphaelite movement. We'll discuss that pre-Raphaelite movement as well. It was a literary movement, right? So we'll discuss it in detail in separate video. That is very important moment. And Tennyson is also known for his short lyrics such as The Charge of the Light Brigade, Ideal Tears, Crossing the Bar. Themes of classicism mythology is found in his work Ulysses. That poem is very important. But in your course you will be studying his poem The Lotus Eaters, and you will also find allusions, mythologies in Lotus Eaters, that mythologies from the Ulysses, right, Homer's Odyssey, and many more Greek mythologies as well. And his famous poem include In Memoriam, because he write this for his friend Hallam, right. And he was a great lyrical poet and popular poet. He expressed the period's moral, because Tennyson was also known as the spirit of the age, or spirit of the age of the Victorian era, because he expressed the period's moral honestness, religious doubts, fears, and hopes about science and democracy advances. He was a supporter or advocate of progress of science and technology, and he give his theory, which is very important, progressive activist theory or progressive activist philosophy of Tennyson. That is very important. I'll discuss it in a separate video, which is very important, right. And he was a great lyrical poet, impressive ability to express emotions, melancholic emotions of grief, loss, loneliness in musical and memorable way. And apart from that, 1850 he publishes poetry named as Poet Laureate. And the major themes in Tennyson's poetry include the divided self, link external uh, scenery to interior state, and that is psychological realism, right, and the historical past, mythological past, and his personal past, and geological time and evaluating history, and social and political concerns are the major themes in his poetry, right. We'll find that medievalism or that past or mythology in his poem Lotus Eaters as well. And he wrote an epic poem of almost 6,000 lines at the age of only 12, right. And apart from that, these are unnecessary details, and we will saw his literary style or his writing style, and known as most illustrative poet of 19th century Victorian age, right. And he was sufficiently compensated with poet art is extraordinary and enduring values that cast a setback to his popularity in the modern world. He is primarily admired as a poet of his values and order, and observed the external beauties of nature. And his poetry is well known for his preciseness and accuracy, and his profound sense of significant price and words, his lyrical and musical qualities as well. as his clearness of expression, decent simplicity of expression, and judgment of beauty. Characteristics of Tennyson poetry: Tennyson is a poet artist, right? He was an artist as well and studied the art of poetry with such uh, singleness of purpose, right? No other poet of his age. He was the spirit of his age, right? And his poetry has a perfect melody and perfect and rhyme in the verse. And his poetry is didactic. Didactic, which means to give a lesson, right? Moralities. And he focuses on individualism or individuality in his poetry. And the major themes include individual versus society as well. In Lotus Eaters we'll see that. So the themes of Tennyson poetry are representative of Victorian age and deals with the reign of order and law of spiritual world and exercising the flawless man. And the theme of spiritual and philosophy in his poetry use proper diction. And because of Tennyson's deep understanding of rhyme and rhythm, his poetry has a variety of styles as well. And he employed allusions, motifs, symbols, images in his poetry. And some of his poetry has a simple and common language. And he employed excessively sensuous language, interested in scientific discoveries, right? As I already told you, he was a supporter of progress of science and technology. And Tennyson comprised a riches of imagination imagery, and themes include death. Tennyson deals with it sustainable and profound personal way. Death of his friend Hallam, and he write a elegy for him in memoriam. And most celebrated poem Ulysses deals with the struggle of life of a great hero who despite his old age is searching for life and approaching death. And in the same poem he also appears to accept death as part of natural life cycle and theme of accepting of death, right? And nature, he portrays nature as a sensuous and beguiling. And in his poems nature also plays a role in constant reminder of a life cycle. And he portrays nature as the strength for existence in life, nature as a metaphor for death as well. And his grief, he suffered from his parents death and subsequent addiction, he was opium addicted, right? And mental illness of his family members and death of his close friend. And all of this distress, despair, disappointment, pain, suffering, melancholy will find. So loss of sorrow, yes, there is loss, sorrow in Tennyson poetry. Spirituality is also found, and he is adhered to his Christian faith, and he find life meaningless, due to which he cannot find optimism and positivism in life, and only death will decrease his suffering. And he appears to accept the natural life cycle and realize that spirit is not eliminated, it develops a more high state. And he believes in God's planning for human beings. Yes, I personally also believe that God has a plan for us and we have to accept it. Time, yes, timelessness we'll find in his poetry, especially in Lotus Eaters. Implication of time, old age, lasting, exhausting, and tiresome life. And the mariners in the Lotus Eaters, they just complain about complain about life, that why we have to hard work humans while other things they have rest. And Tennyson maintained the idea that the life in the world is full of despair, struggle, right? He believed in struggle of life. We have to struggle, life is full of struggle, right? And courage, yes, courage is very important word, right? And his poem Lotus Eaters began with this word courage. Have courage, right? Have spirit, you have to struggle. And Tennyson poetry features great individual who continues to show courage despite suffering. And we'll see that in his Lotus Eaters. I'll discuss it in the next video. So thank you for watching.